Among the services of Hospice Caring are peer support groups. And for Hospice Caring, they're composed of people who have suffered the same loss, that is, the loss of a child, a parent, or sibling. So how does a peer support group work? When strangers come together and are initially united by the powerful feelings of loss they share, they're no longer strangers. Group members begin to trust one another and open themselves up to disclose their inmost feelings with the knowledge that the members will maintain that confidentiality and trust and will offer attention to care for one another. The commonality of the loss is very powerful. Acceptance of one another and expression or lack of expression of feelings creates a bond that somehow allows the dissipation of some of the most painful feelings. Knowing that others feel what you feel, that they do what you do, that they think what you think, and that they suffer as you do, is part of what creates a peer support group. We begin by telling our story, talking about the death of the beloved person. And then we move on to learning more about that person and the relationship our member had with that person. The good, the difficult, the challenging, the painful, and yes, sometimes the funny things too.
You've all heard me talk about my mom's stuff, and I, emptied out her apartment, and I've had the storage room with a whole bunch of my mom's things in it. And Saturday, we had a big yard sale in my neighborhood. My husband and I participated in it. And I emptied out the entire storage unit, and I took things of my mom's that had a lot of value, to her, but not so much to me, although for 3 or 4 days before the sale, I was going through her things, and these were boxes I hadn't even opened, really, since she died, and a lot of the boxes had come from San Antonio before she moved here, and she just had all these boxes, and she moved them. And I told you about the journals that I discovered, but this was stuff I'd never opened. So a couple days before the sale, I opened up these boxes, and I found just a tremendous amount of things that she used to do in San Antonio, like 4 of the boxes had sewing and knitting supplies and yarn. Some of it was unopened, and and thimbles and needles and all kinds of stuff. And I as I went through the stuff, I really thought about the life, that she had there. And I picked up an item that was, it was an unfinished bear. She used to make little stuffed animals. She knitted them, and they made things for premature babies, and they made things for, hospital patients. And I opened up this thing, and it wasn't finished. It was almost like a puppet. It was kind of like a little figure, and it was hollow, and the ends of it were unfinished knitting. And at that point, I just started to cry. I was in my kitchen with all this stuff, and I said to my husband, "This is really painful. This is my mom's life." So I had about 2 days of that, where I was just going through things, and somebody took them. $5 went, off. Be gone with you. My feeling all day was, it needs to go, it needs to go, it needs to go. So it was
It's so much easier to part with things when you have people who want it, or an organization that wants it, or like with the hats, if your nephews want that little memento of your father, that would feel so good.
Yeah, I'm going to ask them, and I'm going to ask them.
Anniversary is coming up of her death. I'm a little, I don't know what's going to do about that. But, it's around the corner.
When you say you don't know what to do.
I don't know if I think about her, if I do I ignore the day, do I just go on with my day?
What would feel appropriate
I don't
to
know.
you?
I don't know. Do I go visit her? Do I do something with my father?
Do you normally celebrate?
No. Not do something with your father. No.
That's kind of not nice.
How do you normally celebrate? Some people celebrate dates and some don't.
Yeah, I do. I typically, but I don't know. Do I have a bowl of ice cream? Because she loved ice cream.
That's good. We could join you.
Yeah, do we have a bowl of ice cream?
I'll go anywhere, even Virginia, for ice cream.
There you go.
What did you do for her birthday?
I went and visited her with her best friend. Remember we broke into the cemetery?
That's right. Yeah.
What about previous birthdays?
Previous birthdays, when she was here, we'd go to dinner. When she was in Vegas, I'd like send her flowers.
Maybe you go to her favorite restaurant
Yeah, get a friend and
Yeah,
and do something that honors her.
right.
And honors you
That's
Yeah.
nice.
as her very special daughter.
Right,
I mean, you can't do nothing because it's like saying, don't think of lemons.
right,
I mean, it's just,
right,
as soon as you say that, you start to salivate and think of lemons.
Right.
You just can't do
right,
that.
right, which is my go-to. Yeah, right.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you're the closest person to me, and I think you're tearing.
I am.
See, I told you.
Well, and you know, we were talking about the thing with Stephen Colbert, him doing a tribute to his mother, and that just kind of brought things to the surface that I thought, you know, had been settled. Thank you, Ellen. We do this a lot. Not so much lately, though. It just brought a lot to the surface, and when he made the statement, if you like me, how was it if you like me, that it's because of her?
Yeah.
Someone had said that to me at work when Mom was sick before she died. They said, I know that your mother's a wonderful person because of who you are.
That's beautiful.
So that just really kind of started the little grief burst. So that's kind of where I am. But this used to happen every day. And it doesn't. It's maybe weeks now where I can think about her and not cry. I can think about her and smile. And it's interesting because I think her death impacted me so much more than my father's death did. But it took me longer to get to the point with Pop where I could smile. It took me longer to be able to get past the birthday and think happy thoughts, to get past Father's Day and think happy thoughts. And I think it's because I came here, that I was able to get through that and get to that place where the happy thoughts were there at the surface more often, because I didn't do any kind of grief work after my father died. I guess because my mom was still there, and we were kind of focused on her and making sure she was okay, and she was fine. She was fine. She dealt with it better than the rest of us combined, But it's so nice to not have this happen all the time. But it's Stephen Colbert's fault.
Okay.
It's all his fault, doggone it,
You were so
That
stressed
you
out.
lost your mom. You were so stressed out, and you had held everything, and you were holding it together. And then I feel like, I don't know when it was. Did she die in July?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were holding it together as you often do, right?
Yeah.
And you hit a deer,
Yep.
and that was the breaking point for you.
Yep.
And so we're all like, "Oh, you hit a deer. This is terrible." And people are like almost crying harder. It's really awful. And then Ellen, and then she's like, "Well, it's good to let the emotions out. You just gotta, just people." So as we're like, people, just get out there and hit those deer. That's right. So I went over to my husband. I said, "Well," he said, "How was it?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna go back. It was, we laughed, we cried. They just, and I literally had to say, you commented that we should just hit those deer."
But from the onset, appropriately, we did have a fair amount of laughter.
Oh, that was a good
Yeah.
laugh.
And
We
I
still
think
laugh
that
over
we had that's sustained the group in a way.
Absolutely.
Okay, we
Every
can
time.
count on getting together, having a really good laugh.
Right, it's true. Anyway, but the group has been very good that way. And surprisingly, I have cried very hard here, to the point where you could hardly understand me, which is, I know that people say this, but I really very rarely do that in front of people. And I'll cry in my car like that. But I'm not a big, you couldn't understand me. You could not understand my words, but you understood me. But you understood me, so it worked. Everything else is the same.
I sort of have a question, and that is, how did you come to hospice caring?
It's a question for
Well,
everybody.
don't you remember I crashed my car in the garage?
Oh, right. Your husband said you need to do something.
Right. Oh, that was your equivalent of hitting the deer.
That was my equivalent. So he
No.
passed away. I crashed the car in the garage and was like, okay, you know, I'm not doing well. That had only been 2 months. So I said to my husband, I'm going to call a therapist. I got to call a therapist. So I got in with like just regular weekly therapy, and it was coming up, but like it was pretty clear that what I really needed was not just, I mean, one-on-one therapy is great for many things, but ultimately the counselor was like, you know what? Why don't we look into a bereavement group? So for months I said, no. I'm not going to do a bereavement group. I can't do that. I kept saying, I feel like I'm way too bad for it. I'm too bad to go to a group. I'm going to destroy the group. I'm going to be crying all the time. I'm going to ruin the group. They're like, oh my Lord, what's wrong with this girl? And so she kept bringing it up very carefully. Like, what do you think? What do you think? Finally, she said, why don't you just look at a couple different things. So I looked at several websites that had options. And from what I looked at, hospice was the only one that broke it down into like death of a parent, death of a spouse, death of a child. Like of course I'm sad about my dad, but I don't see myself sitting in a group comfortably with someone who's lost their child. So it's a different process. So when hospice broke it down like that, I felt like these people know what they're doing. I feel like this is, they're going to be able to handle, like they're putting me in the right place, and I'm going to try it. And then, Toby was ridiculously amazing on the phone. Remember, she knew. I said my parents were divorced, and my stepfather and my dad, she said, and this is your biological father. And I said, yeah, how do you know this? She said, I could tell by how you're talking. So it's just really, and then I waited, you have to wait until the group gets big enough, which is hard because, other people are losing their loved ones, so you can make a group. But
Hospice
She was at home.
at home with hospice?
Yeah.
Do they offer any kind of
They did,
follow-up for you?
but I didn't get it. It didn't make sense. I didn't see the value of it at the time. I especially didn't see the value of it, of driving an hour to go somewhere else. And at the time, no one really explained anything to me. I was very lost in my own world. And I was in a very, very dark place. But once I got to the realization that I needed to come out of it, I needed to crawl out of that hole, and the only person that was going to start that process was me, then the first thing I did was search out help. And once I came across this group, and the same thing that you found, having it broken down of, these are people that lost parents. That's what I needed. I needed people who lost parents, people who understood that same feeling. And so I knew that was the right step. And sure enough, I had, once we sat down in that first meeting, and that first session, and started talking, I remember walking out of there going, I don't know if I feel better, but I feel something. And that was enough that I remember going home and saying to my girlfriend, she said to me, so you want to go back? And I said, yeah, I do. I want to try. I want to do it again next week. And then every week, I kept feeling something a little bit better, just a little bit every week. And then I started realizing, as we all started getting closer and bonding closer more and more, watching every one of us starting to hit that tipping point of
Oh, yeah.
this is it.
You can
Now I
it
see it.
in people. Well,
That
you especially.
that was the magic of it all.